probably heard that tune, right? That's Fall by Wayne Shorter. And in this lesson, we're going to take a look at this tune. We're going to learn an arrangement, kind of, that I did. It's just the chords and the melody that I tabbed out and everything. And then we're going to look at how Jonathan Kreisberg plays this tune. I saw him recently play live, and he played this tune in 5. And that's from Ari Honig album called Bird's Playground, I think. So you can check that out. It's a great album. And so we're going to try to play it in 5. And that will enable us to play some Jonathan Kreisberg kind of phrases or patterns. He likes to play patterns in 5, which obviously fits very well into the 5 time signature. And then we're going to look at some extended arpeggios that can help us if we're trying to improvise over this rather challenging tune. So, Fall by Wayne Shorter. Let's get into it, shall we? So this is iReal Pro, even 8s, and the piano removed, and BPM is 80. Let's go. So that was kind of my arrangement. It's just like the chord voicings and the melody. So this chord is like a rush kind of sound. You don't normally play this, and that is the... I mean, in jazz, you don't often hear this kind of chord. It sounds like a rush or something. But it's a beautiful sound, and I'm pretty sure that's what Kreisberg plays. So the chord symbol is kind of complicated. It's a sus chord with an added 11. So I guess that's what this is. Then we have a diminished chord, meaning like it's from diminished harmony. It's a 13 flat 9 chord. I've talked a lot about diminished harmony, so I'm not going to focus too much on the diminished harmony now. You can check out my video on diminished harmony, my latest video on diminished harmony. But it's a 13 with a flat 9, so it's like an A flat triad over B. Then E sus. Play a D major 7 or drop 2, second inversion over E. Then I play this chord, major 7 flat 5 to a different voicing. If you want to be really edgy, you can play a major 7 sharp 9 chord there, but be a little bit careful with that. So things comes back. You could play it like a solo piece almost. D major, D 13 flat 9, G minor 11. Here, B minor 11, you can play it like that. this last voicing is a little bit stretchy, so if you don't want to play that, you can just play some kind of A minor 11 over B. Before we look at the Ari Honig 5/4 approach, let's talk about extended arpeggios, because here we have big chords. So bebop, harmony, bop scales, that stuff that I often talk about, doesn't really work. I mean, you can practice superimposed bop scales, but it's not. We're not after the bebop language here. We're after more of a Wayne Shorter kind of sound. So I like to practice extended arpeggios. Extended arpeggio. So the first chord, I look at it like a E over F sharp sus. The chord that I would normally play is an E major 7. Sounds great over that chord, right? But you could do an extended arpeggio, so root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9, 11, 13. So those are the 7 notes of a scale, the diatonic scale that belongs to this chord, the sus chord. Played as thirds instead of step. The thing to understand here is that I'm thinking E major 7, even though the chord is an F sharp, but I'm thinking E major 7. I also like to start on the 7th of the major 7 arpeggio. So you have an option here. You can play the major 7 arpeggio, E major 7, or the extended arpeggio. Or a combination. Later on, there's an E sus. So then I play a D extended arpeggio. I skipped the second chord because we'll talk about that later. Then we have the E flat major 7. Then I also play E flat major 7 extended arpeggio. For the minor chords, it's kind of reversed. So root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9, 11, 13. B minor. And then it's an E minor. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7, 9, 11, 13. And the last chord, A minor 11. I could think of it at two ways. I could think of it as an A minor 11 or C major Lydian. So I'm gonna think of a C major, started on B. So the chord is this kind of, right? So for the diminished dominant chords, the dominant flat 9-13, I'm gonna play this. Because I like how that sounds. With this scale, the half whole, there are many options for extended arpeggios, but I'm gonna pick this one because I like how that sounds. It's like a major triad here. Alright, so let's put everything together. D, and then here, because the chords are moving twice as fast, I'm just gonna play to keep everything in the rhythm. I know the chords at the end there fall a little bit different in the beat, in the bars, but that doesn't really matter. So let's practice. I'm actually gonna return the piano to the mix here. Let's do the reverse. So instead of thinking scales as stepwise, I guess it would be mixolydian. The thirds kind of open up everything to a bigger picture. Notice that I'm moving a lot of these chromatically, which is interesting. So the first one is an E arpeggio, then just a symmetrical diminished, but then it's D, E flat. That's something to kind of think about, because that can help you transition between these chords. So you can, in Ibanez Pro, highlight, let's say, 2 chords that you want to practice, because it's the transitioning, the voice leading between the chord change, over the chord change. That's the challenge. I don't think the challenge for most people is to play the scale. Hopefully, if you watch my videos, you know how to play Lydian scales and mixolydian scales and stuff like that, right? So it's the actual transitioning. So if I highlight those 2 and just loop that, so E sus, practice like that, and then you do that with the next 2 chords, and then maybe 4 chords before you try to play the whole tune. That's how I would practice something where there very difficult chord changes, because these chord changes are quite difficult. All right, let's play it like Jonathan Kreisberg in 5. All you have to do is to go into Edit and change the time signature to 5/4. It doesn't always work with time signatures. You can't just change to any time signature. It depends a little bit what the drum setting is and how many chords there are in a bar. But if it's just one chord in a bar, I think you can change it to any time signature in iReal Pro, but it might sound a little bit funny depending. 3, 4, 5. There are two kind of basic rhythms in 5. One is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Like take 5, right? The other one is 2 downbeats and 2 offbeats. Let's try both. Let's do the take 5 rhythm. Up, down, down, up, up. Another technique that would be amazing over here is triad pairing, like over the Isus. But I have talked about triad pairing quite a lot, and I have many videos where I talk about that, so I'm not gonna get into it right now. So all this stuff, the extended arpeggios and the lead sheet in 5/4, extended arpeggios, the arrangement is on my Patreon page. Before I leave you, I want to share some Jonathan Kreisberg kind of patterns. I have talked about that also in the past. I've made, I think, 2 videos with Kreisberg patterns. And he seems to kind of favor groups of 5. He often plays this, for example. So it's just 4-part arpeggios starting on the 7th, going up to the 7th. So if you did that, for example, over the first chord, the F sharp sus, it would be maybe E major 7. You could go up to F sharps. Just going up the scale or down. So if I play 16th notes, there are gonna be 4 of them in each bar. So just for practice sake, let's just play the basic one. So for F sharp sus, I'm gonna play E major 7. For the E flat major 7, I'm gonna play E flat major 7. So just a major 7 arpeggio. For the dominant, I'm gonna play something different. I'll let you know later. So let's see what that sounds like. So E major 7. Trying to just move them diatonically, which just takes a little bit of practicing, and the idea is to play them very fast. It sounds better. It's like Coltrane sheets of sound, like it's supposed to be just like this cascading sounds. Otherwise it sounds too much like you're practicing. But if you play it like super fast and super clean like Jonathan Kreisberg does, it sounds cool. I also noticed when I saw him play here in Gothenburg a couple of months ago that when he plays that stuff, he does hybrid picking. That surprised me. I thought he was a picking. So he plays them with his 2, I think, because I could, from where I was standing, I could see quite clearly what he's doing. So what the diminished chords, I was playing this, so B diminished or the dominant. I say diminished because I mean diminished harmony. So it's B half whole. This is another Kreisberg lick. D, D sharp, F sharp, B, D. You could move that in minor thirds. If you want to go up diatonically in the scale, it would be, that's an F minor 7, A flat minor 7. That's a Jonathan Kreisberg lick that I have covered in one of those videos where I go over Kreisberg patterns. You could also try them as triplets. It would be 3 in each. standard Kreisberg lick is kind of this, right? That's also 5 if you have the G minor 7, for example, there. So it's a G minor 9 arpeggio. Then D minor 9. G minor 9. D minor 9. So for the first chord, remember that F sharp sus is kind of the same thing as C sharp minor. That's the 2 and this is the 5. So C sharp Dorian, F sharp mixo share the same notes. So I can think C sharp Dorian here. Then East would be B Dorian. Let's try a little bit of those licks to see how that goes. So I'm starting C sharp. Alright, I hope that gave you some ideas on how you can practice playing the tune Fall. And as always, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.